Here we go. Amud Yomi is the first day of Chanukah. Daf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph Mesechtas Yoma. Our topic today is going to be trying to figure out how is it that you'll have a Kohen Gadol be married to specifically one wife the entire Yom Kippur, even if one of them dies. In other words, would it be helped the fact that we set up a second wife for just in case the first one dies, but there's inevitably going to be a gap. So how do we figure this out? That's the topic of today's Gemara, mostly. Let's begin. We're beginning at the two dots near the top. Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Rabbi Yehuda says, Af isha acheres imsaknin lo. And said in the Mishnah that not only do you set up a second Kohen in case a problem happens to the first Kohen, but you set up a second wife because the pasuk says that the Kohen Gadol needs to be married the entire time. Rabbanan nami chayshi l'shema. Gemara asks that why did the Chachamim get so surprised at Rabbi Yehuda? They say to Rabbi Yehuda, if you're going to be worried about that, maybe the first one she's going to die, then you'll be worried forever. Well, the Chachamim themselves had such a concern. They said you set up a second Kohen Gadol just in case the first one has a problem. Why don't you say the same thing? If you're going to start worrying about things like that, you should worry forever and set up a backer-upper to the backer-upper. Answers the Gemara, Ami l'chor Rabbanan. The Rabbanan would say to you, Tuma shchicha, but misa lo shchicha. Whether the Kohen will become tummy is more common than a death occurring. So that's a level of concern that we could take care of without saying we're just going to worry till forever. But if you're going to start worrying that maybe someone will die, that's so unlikely that it becomes the same boundary as just worrying forever. Amru lo im kain ein lo davar sof. Said the Mishnah, it said the Chachamim back to Rabbi Yehuda, if you're going to be concerned about this wife, then there's no end. So it explains now the Gemara takes up the Chachamim's opinion and tries to understand what Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah would have done with this. Shaper ka'amri lei the Rabbi Yehuda. It was very good what they said to Rabbi Yehuda. Meaning it makes sense. Rabbi Yehuda amarlach. Rabbi Yehuda would say back to you though, lemisa dechada chayshinan, lemisa letarti lo chayshinan. One death is reasonable to be concerned about. But once you get into the boundary of two deaths to be concerned that if this person dies and then that person, the person who's backing up also died, that already is so far. Rabbanan said, once you're going to start getting into such small chances that you're worried for one person to die, then already that is in this halachically, that already in the same boundaries as being concerned for two deaths. It's not like a separate line between one death and two deaths. And so you should have to be worried forever. Okay, continues the Gemara. V'Rabbanan nemu inu l'nafshayu. Let the Rabbanan say to themselves the same exact thing. The same way if you're concerned for one backer-upper, you should be concerned for two backer-uppers. Right? This we never said before. Because here we're saying that Rabbanan, you said you're concerned about a guy possibly becoming tameh. So then, and you said also that if you're concerned for one, then you should also be concerned for two. If so, then you should have somebody backing up the Kohen Gadol and somebody backing up the backer-upper as well. Because if we're concerned for one, you're concerned for two. Amru l'cha Rabbanan Kohen Gadol zarisu. Here we're dealing with tumah, not death, so it is in the hands of the Kohen Gadol, and the Kohen Gadol will be extremely careful. And so because the Kohen Gadol is very careful, we're going to have one backup. But it says that's the Gemara though. Okay, Izarisu. If the Kohen is very careful, so lama mesaknin Kohen achar. Why at all do we make a backer-upper for him? Says the Gemara, Kevan da avdina leitzara kol shekinim zaris tvei. We're making a backer-upper not because we're actually going to hope, not that we're concerned that we'll actually need that backer-upper, but it's to strengthen his carefulness. He sees the guy, you see the guy who's going to take over for you. You're like, oh no, you're not. Right? It's going to make the guy be extra careful. I don't want to be the loser over here. So he'll be very careful. Mi sagile vitakanta, but is it enough to fix up one person? Beso amarachmana. But the pasuk says the Kohen Gadol has to have a wife, his household, which refers to his wife. With this woman, if she's not married yet, she's just a backer-upper, well then she's not his beso. She's not married to him. Says the Gemara, the Makadish law. We're talking about when we say that Rabbi Yehuda sets up a backer-up wife, he means that she actually marries him. She actually marries him before Yom Kippur begins. Says the Gemara, but if he didn't actually have Nisuin, which is, then it's still not called his household. Okay, we need a bit of introduction here. In Jewish marriages, there's two stages. Neither of them is engagement, okay? Engagement is nothing. There's no marriage whatsoever. There's no kedusha between the couple. But there is something called kiddushin. That's for when a man gives the ring, for example, at a wedding. And then there's being under the chuppah, it's called nisuin, or it could be in the yichud room, being alone with his wife afterwards. But it has in two stages. And they only after the nisuin do the husband and wife begin to live together. Before that, usually, and back in the days of old, they were actually separated into two different times. There was kiddushin, which would happen, and the wife would still stay by her father's family and be getting ready for marriage. And then like a year later, there would be nisuin. Nowadays, we do it all in one shot. So we're not so familiar with it. But really, both of them are going on at one shot. So it says the Gemara that if just kiddushin, the first stage in marriage, happened, then they would still be, that wouldn't be called Beso, his household, right? She stays in her father's household still. Says the Gemara, the Kanasla. No, it actually is talking about that. You're right, it wasn't just Kiddushin happened, but Nisuin, the second stage of marriage, also happened. As the Gemara in Cain, Havile Shnei Batim. But then he would be having two wives. In singular, he's only doing it, he's getting forgiveness. He's getting forgiveness for one wife and not for two wives. Says the Gemara, the Hadar Megarishla. He marries her and then he divorces her. Says the Gemara, hold on. If he divorced her on Yom Kippur or before Yom Kippur, he's sof. At the end of the day, he's only married to that one wife. If she ends up dying, he'll have no wives at that time. Says the Gemara, lo tzricha. It was necessary like this. The Megarishla al Tanai. He divorces her with the following condition. The Amarla, he says to her, this is your get on condition shatamusi, that you die before the end of Yom Kippur. If you're going to die before the end of Yom Kippur, then you're divorced. Says the Gemara, but still, how's that going to help us? Maybe she's not going to die, and probably she's not going to die. And on that possibility, she still has two wives, and Yom Kippur requires that the Kohen Gadol has but one wife. Says the Gemara, Ela de Amar La. Rather, this is what the Kohen Gadol will say to this second woman. He marries her with the Nisuin, and then he says, this is your get, this is your divorce document on condition shelo tamusi, that you do not die before the end of Yom Kippur. And ilo maisa, but if she does not die, megar shala, if she doesn't die, then she is divorced. V'i maisa, and if the divorced wife dies, kaimahach. So then at least there's still the original wife. She's still alive. Says the Gemara, how is that fixing up anything? Hold on. V'dilmei hilo mesa, maybe she's not going to die. V'havile gita, dahai gita. And then the get is a good get. She didn't die, so the get was a good get. U'maisa chaverta, and the original wife dies. V'kamle below bias, and it will turn out that he has no wife. So we're back to our original problem. How are we going to make sure that the Kohen Gadol, there's one Kohen Gadol, and he's married to one wife the entire Yom Kippur? If we're concerned that maybe she's going to die. Ella de Amar La, rather he says to her like this: Al menashe Thomas achas mikem. This is your get on condition that one of you dies before the end of Yom Kippur. If either you or the original wife dies, my original wife dies, he says, then it's a good get. So misa hakaimahach. If the divorced wife dies, then the undivorced wife will stay. Well, the original wife remains. Misa hach hakaimahach. So either way, there's only going to be either one will die or one will be divorced. So at the end of the day, there's going to be only one wife. Ask the Gemara. One second. If we think about this well, it doesn't really work out. V'dilma lo maisa v'lo chad minayu. Maybe neither of them will die. So then the Havile Shnei Batim. So he will have had two wives then throughout Yom Kippur, and that's a problem for the kapara of Yom Kippur. V'od, and furthermore, says the Gemara, ki hai gavna mi have gita. If you give a get that this is your divorce document if you will die, is that considered a good get? Altogether, there's a separate halacha that's not a good get. Why? Rava says, if a person says, this is your divorce document on condition that you don't drink wine ever, if he says the condition applies all the days of my life, or all the days of your life, that's not called cutting off. A krisos, a get, a divorce document must be done in a way that it creates full cutoff. And if the only way that they'll be divorced is only after one of them dies, then if she dies, then you're divorced. Then that's not called cutting off. You'd be dead end. It goes till you're demarried as long as you're still alive. The divorce will only work once you die. That's not called a divorce document that cuts them off. They're already separated. But if you say like this, if you give a divorce document, says Rava, and you say this is a divorce as long as Ploni is alive, so then Harei Zeh Krisos, behold, that is a divorce document. That would be considered a divorce document. Okay, because then it could be that while she's alive, she will get divorced. That's good. That would work. That is called a cutting off. So it says the Gemara like this. We're gonna have to rework out this condition. Ella de Amar La, rather it's where he says to her, Harei Zeh Gitech Amanasha Lo Thomas Chavertecha. This is your get on condition that the original wife doesn't die. The first wife doesn't die. So ilo ma'isa chaverta. So this is what will play out. Ilo ma'isa chaverta megarsha. If the first one, the original wife, doesn't die, so she's divorced. So Kohen Gadol will have only one wife throughout Yom Kippur. V'im ma'isa ha, and if the first wife dies, so hakaima ha, then the original wife works. Right, then the original wife will work. So either way, the Kohen Gadol is married to only one wife. Gemara points out once again, this also is not going to be valid for us. It's not going to help us out. There's still going to be a problem. How come? Vidilma, perhaps, maybe what's going to happen is the first wife will die in the middle of the avoda, in the middle of Yom Kippur, and what will happen? V'igloi milsa, and then it will come out Limafreya de Gita daha lav gitahu. That it will come out retroactively because the get is given on condition that the friend dies. So now the retroactively the Gita daha lav gitahu. This one's get was never a get. V'avid le'avoda b'shtei batim. So now, if the first wife, the original wife, dies without a get, dies in the middle of Yom Kippur, so then the Gita Daha Lav Gitahu. So then the get for the second wife was not a good get because we needed her. That was the condition that we made, that it will be a good get only if the first one lives through Yom Kippur. But here, the first wife died in the middle of Yom Kippur. So now the first get wasn't a good get. And the first wife was married her until whenever she died. So up until the point where the first wife died, the Kohen Gadol was married to two wives. So if he did the avoda at that point, he was married to two wives. That would make the avoda pasul. Elo de Amar La, rather he said to her, Harei Zeh Gitech, behold, this is your get, al menas shetamos chavertecha. This is your get on condition that the other wife dies. But how's that going to help, says the Gemara? Look, Vidilma Maisa Chaverta, maybe the first wife will die, and then that means that the second wife was really divorced. Then the get is a good get. The come below bias. And then the Kohen Gadol is married to nobody, and once again, it will passel the avoda. Right now, we're still totally stuck on this. How are we going to get this? For that, we'll have to be continued. Amir Hashem, on tomorrow's Amid. Have a great day.